About an hour ago, UFO whistleblower David Grusch and his lawyer Charles McCullough III were interviewed on BBC Radio 4. This marks his first interview post the July 26 UFO hearing, and to date he's done next to none. McCullough was a presidentially appointed and Senate-confirmed Intelligence Community Inspector General under the Obama administration. And the fact that he's representing David Grusch, to me, holds tremendous weight. Let's get right into the interview, shall we? So the host says to David Grusch, the most eye-catching claim you made is that the U.S. government has partially intact and fully intact alien spacecraft in its possession, and it's not telling the people that this is the reality. Why, David, did you go public specifically with this information?
I found that to be very important for the public at large to understand their place in the cosmos, their place in the universe, and that's something I believe the U.S. government should be held accountable for potentially overclassifying or misclassifying basic science.
If David Grusch is right about his allegations, he's going to go down in history as one of the most well-known and celebrated heroes in the history of the human species, not just for American citizens, but by citizens from all over this world because of the extraordinary violation that has been enacted by the U.S. government of our freedom to know the truth of our reality. And I do remember from the original interview, he said that because of the overwhelming secrecy, our greatest minds are really not working on this recovered technology. And so the public at large is really not benefiting from it the way that it otherwise could. It's held within, from what I hear, aerospace companies, and their major focus is back engineering it for military application. But there's so many other applications it could be applied to, such as energy generation, novel material science, as well as new systems of propulsion. So, David Grusch, if you're watching this, thank you for your heroism. The host rightfully, justifiably asks Grusch, but how do you know they have these items? Because you have not seen them yourself, have you? To which Grusch responds,
There's certain things that I have firsthand access to that I can't publicly discuss at this time. However, myself and other colleagues interviewed 40 individuals. Both are current and former highly distinguished intelligence and military personnel that were specifically on these programs. And those that were willing, I directed to the Intelligence Community Inspector General. So the Inspector General was able to interview these people that do have direct firsthand information.
Right. So they have that information directly. Have they actually seen these vehicles?
The individuals I interviewed that I directed to the Inspector General, yes, they have the firsthand experiences, yes.
Right.
Now, this is pretty remarkable. For starters, 40 witnesses is an enormous number of witnesses to interview and to vet. But it gets even better. He directed to the Intelligence Community Inspector General those that he interviewed that were willing to do so, but they were also firsthand direct witnesses who have seen the non-human derived vehicles. And so I'm sure that David Grusch has covered this before maybe, but I don't know if he said it as directly as this that was presented in this interview. And so I think it goes without saying that from the July 26 hearing that he was involved in under oath, and the interview in the article that was put into the debrief.org website on, I think it was it June 5th? And then on, I think, June 11th, he did the interview with investigative journalist Ross Coulthart. It goes without saying that he at the very minimum, he is putting his reputation on the line like no other, because this is all coming to a head, and we're going to get more hearings. I've heard that future hearings are going to have firsthand witnesses, potentially firsthand witnesses that are going to testify under oath and are going to make the claim that they've seen the alien spacecraft with their own eyeballs. This is coming to a head. The American government is not going to be able to get away much longer with their rhetoric of nothing to see here if it's wrong. I hope that you have a healthy supply of popcorn in your possession, because by golly, you are going to need it. He was asked by the host, why hasn't the U.S. government acknowledged these truths? And I'll go over that very briefly. Basically, he said that some of the secrecy was translated from the Manhattan Project onto the UFO issue subject. And also, officials weren't sure how ontologically shocking it was going to be to the world populace if they admitted to this presence of and I'll add my own little commentary here. Yes, there's a presence here. Yes, it can do whatever it wants, whenever it wants, with impunity, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. To admit to this would be to admit to extraordinary vulnerabilities. So not only ontological shock that we're not the highest species on the totem pole, if you will, but also that our military can't protect us from it if this presence was ever to become hostile. So it makes sense that they covered this up. Some people say, well, why would they do that? There's a lot of reasons they would do that. And then he goes on to say, it's a Pandora's box, or, potentially military and weapons development type reverse engineering activities, right? So you admit to this, and now other countries are going to recognize the necessity to study this phenomena and figure out how it works so that they do not get left behind in competition with those countries that are putting money into understanding these technologies. And therefore, ultimately, at least this would be their intention, duplicate this technology and then have an asymmetrical advantage over adversaries. So these seem to be the core reasons that Grusch has laid out in the interview as to why the U.S. government has gone so many years without acknowledging this reality. And interestingly, he was asked about Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. The host said, the head of the Pentagon's office in this area, Sean Kirkpatrick, issued a statement last week. You'll be aware of it, calling your testimony insulting and saying you were never representative to his unit. And this is David Grusch's response. Dr. Kirkpatrick oversaw our activities and what we were doing and the money we were spending. I never said I was part of the core team, so I believe it was just a lost in translation or misconstrued. So that's that. This is his first interview post the July 26th UFO hearing conducted by the House Subcommittee on National Security. I'm hopeful that he'll do more interviews as we move forward. And in fact, in my opinion, he should do a 60 minutes. Now let's lay this out. If this whole thing keeps going in the direction that I anticipate that it will, then it's inevitable that 60 minutes is going to do an extraordinary piece. In my opinion, Grusch should be a primary component of that as we move forward and get closer to what I perceive as a post-disclosure world. Now, I know a lot of my detractors, for lack of a better word, will say, oh, you're just dangling a carrot and you're just going on with this. You're just going on with this disclosure thing. It's always around the next corner. And my response to that is, we have never been where we are now. There are 22 times non-human intelligence is written in the Chuck Schumer amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act. We, on July 25th, for the very first time, had pilots with firsthand experience with UAP go on the record, testifying under oath, that they saw machines that surpass known technology on our planet. And we are slated to get future hearings with firsthand witness testimony from legacy UFO programs. It's not my fault that we are in absolutely brand new territory. And I'm not going to downplay that just because some people want to pretend we've been here, done that. The truth of the matter is, we have not been here, done that. We are in new territory, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's an objective reality, and that is my perception. Please do not forget to subscribe. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You could become a patron. You could become a YouTube member. You could give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be accessed in the description below, or you can just slap a like on this bad boy, and I will appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. I'm just going to continue swimming. I am swimming through the waters of the cosmos. You don't see it. You don't taste it, but I do. I do. Special thanks to all patrons, YouTube members, those that have bought merch, those that have given me one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.